is live.
Hello everyone and welcome to our latest Future Made Clear live Q&A session. Let's start from introducing myself. I'm Michael Della Selva, Head of Marketing and Communication at FEVE. FEVE is the European Container Glass Federation. So thank you for joining us today in this last episode of our Future Made Clear Q&As, where we regularly try to debate and discuss topics which are particularly relevant for the marketplace, so for us, but also for our colleagues and partners on the value chain. The future will be circular, the future will be green, or there will be no future. This is how Janez Potočnik, a co-chair of the International Resource Panel and former European Commissioner for the Environment, marked his intervention at the World Circular Economy Forum 2023, beginning of June. Last week, we also celebrated the two important days, the World Environment Day and the World Ocean Day, to remind all of us of our shared responsibility to protect and preserve our planet's resources for present and future generations, notably by preventing, reducing, recycling waste. And that's also why we are here today to discuss together with our panel what is the role from consumers to brands, from media to ourselves as container glass industry in shaping a more circular future. At European level, the debate is today particularly high on the agenda, for example, with the shaping of the future packaging and packaging waste regulation, aiming, amongst others, to set the ambitious goal of making all packaging put on the market recyclable and actually recycled. But also the proposed Green Claims Directive, which aims to tackle misleading information about sustainability to ensure that only accurate and fact-based information reaches consumers. All of this makes us raise the question, how can companies ensure that their products are truly recyclable? How can they communicate this appropriately? What is the interplay with other stakeholders, such as the media, when it comes to making these efforts visible and promoting recyclable products? To help us address this question, we will hear today from two outstanding experts from both the media and the glass container industry to discuss how these concerns materialize in their work and how they can help brands shaping the circular future. So without further ado, let me introduce our guest speaker today. We have Maria Garcia de la Fuente. Maria is the president of the Association of Environmental Information Journalists. Maria has been working in environmental journalism for 24 years. Following her degree in journalism, she has worked for the newswire Europa Press, the media outlet Público, and in the press office of the Spanish Ministry of Environment and Rural and Marine Affairs. Good morning, Maria.
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for the invitation.
Welcome. And we have also Sandra Santos. Sandra is the CEO and board member of BA Glass Group. BA Glass is one of the leading European and international container glass manufacturers, dedicated to the production of glass packaging for food and beverage industry, present in 7 countries in Europe. Before being appointed as a group CEO, Sandra was the group CFO, having in its scope the financial and supply chain functions. Sandra is also a member of the FEVE board of directors. Before starting, I just take 1 second also to remind the audience to please leave your questions in the comments of the LinkedIn chain, and we will see at the end of the Q&A if we are able to take up some of the questions. So thank you for joining me today, and very happy to have you here. So we start with Maria. Maria, in recent years, there's been a clear behavior shift from consumers who are not only voicing their environmental concerns, but also taking matters into their own hands. As a journalist and also as a president of the Spanish Environmental Information Journalists Association, have you experienced this evolution? What sustainable topics are currently resonating more with readers?
Hello, Michael. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this live. Yes, I think we have experienced an evolution I think that the decision to buy a product is no longer influenced by price alone. I see more and more people reading the labels in the supermarket, so they are also buying by an environmental criteria. They ask what a product is made of, what materials are included in the composition, where those materials come from, whether or not they are recyclable, and what measures companies are taking to prevent waste, among others. I think, as you said, last week we've got two big days for environmental, the Environmental Day and the Ocean Day. We celebrate these days to encourage society to take action against marine and plastic pollution. In Spain, more than 70,000 people participated last week in several garbage collection actions in beaches, rivers, and parks. So I think that it shows that people are concerned about environmental and they want to buy things that take care of environment. As you asked me about the topics that readers are more interested in, I think one of the topics, as the IPCC report in 1928, 2019, the rise of youth environmental activism inspired by Greta Thunberg and the impact of the COVID pandemic. There were global events that have impacted media on the coverage and the topics that consumers cares about. Today, I think that the main issues involve around climate change, mobility, energy production, the transition to renewable energy solutions, sustainable practices, and recycling. These are the main topics and what are the media are taking care about it.
Thank you, Maria. Sandra, as a glass container manufacturer, do you see this shift in consumer behavior impacting our industry customers, so the brands you work with? So do you see this impacting their behavior, their way of working with you, and what are their main sustainability concerns?
Good morning, everyone. Michael, thank you very much for the invitation. Yes, well, we see it for a while already in our customers, particularly the big brands. So the big brands, of course, are concerned with all these things, particularly on their CO2 footprint and also the waste generation. So it's a big concern, again, particularly on the big brands. But what I see differently, and it's somehow recent, I'll say in the middle of next year, what we saw is that there is a kind of alignment, including in the companies of our customers. So we see not only their vision, their targets, but we see an alignment on their top management, their employees through KPIs. The KPIs are already on the bonus system, etc. So what we see is that there is an alignment, a clear alignment inside their organization. And so all their teams, including, of course, the procurement teams, are trying to engage the full supply chain in their own targets, sustainability and environmental sustainability targets. That, I would say, that is the big change I see. So it was there, the targets were there, but clear there is much more people involved on the process of making that targets possible. And also there is a kind of avalanche of projects or trying to raise partnerships with their suppliers in all the supply chain in order to achieve their own targets. So the puzzle is getting done. So everyone is on this process. And what is also very clear, and I'll say even after COVID, is that sustainability is a business today. So it's not a business on the bad sense, is on the good sense. So I think the companies as an overall, they understood that sustainability can be a business. So first of all, they can differentiate their process and their products. they can attract consumers, that can attract even employees. So today is even a factor that attracts good talent. And of course, it's a kind of license to operate. So everything is very framework by regulation, and we see a lot of regulation coming in, right? And a lot of discussions around legislation. So it's a license to operate, not only the short term, but particular on the long term, if they want to be resilient, and again, if they want to do a good business and a profitable business. So these are the two things that I think are much more clear now than it were, I don't know, 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
That's quite clear. Thanks, Sandra. Maria, as a journalist, as a media, you observe and analyze the way brands, companies, sectors position on sustainability towards consumers. So in the whole media channels, have you observed these patterns? Sandra was describing this kind of shift of patterns. And I don't know if you have any examples that you want to share that particularly stand out in the way they approach the design and marketing of their products.
Yes, as Sandra said, sustainability is a business. So brands are making an increasing effort to communicate environmental aspects of their products because they have realized that the environment sells. The challenge now is not to fall in a misuse of the terms sustainable, eco, bio, and not lose the confidence of consumers. Honestly, I think that the main factor is to take in account that brands must improve on communicating honestly and to put eco and bio labels not at every product, only when real it deserves it. Brands are trying to answer the call by seeking sustainability sources for the products, favoring recyclable materials, making their packaging more minimalist, and reducing the amount of secondary packaging. I think that consumers are reading more and more the labels and care about a lot of packaging, so brands have to take care about it. And one of the examples I can prove is that last week I was visiting Verallia, a factory in Guadalajara, one of the most important manufacturers of glass in Spain. The glass industry has innovated a lot in eco-design. So I think they would have to explain it more to the clients. And one of the success of Verallia has been to reduce the weight of the bottles by 20%, which leads to a smaller amount of raw materials used and a reduction in CO2 emissions. So I think it would be a good path of sustainable a way to explain to citizens that they can choose to buy products with less environmental impact. Maybe it would be a good idea to put in the glass the label that it comes from recycled glass, as they say in the plastic bottles. Another good example is Estrella Damm, the Spanish beer brand. They have replaced the plastic rings. Instead, they put cardboard rings for their cans. So, and they have explained it to the consumer. So the consumer can choose for a sustainable product instead of others. So I think it's a good way to explain to the consumers what are the brands doing.
Thanks a lot, Maria. So, Sandra, Maria was referring to one example of what we can say is a kind of general move of our industry in adapting to this new reality. And coming back to you and to what you are doing, again, as one of the leading producers in Europe and globally, how are you concretely collaborating with customers and to ensure that products that are put on the market take into account the sustainability issues, be waste prevention, recyclability, the product life cycle. So just to say, you know, is it just a buzzword, or actually it's a reality and it's a real engagement from our industry?
No, it's a real engagement. First of all, I would like to say one thing. This environmental sustainability is not new in the sector. I remember that we produced our first sustainability report in 2001, so 22 years ago. The first time we reported public, and we were not a public company, we reported on our annual report all the environmental KPIs, water, waste, CO2, all the things, okay? So it's a real thing, right? Also to remind that one of the critical points of the industry is the CO2 footprint that will be solved or almost solved as soon as we do the energy transition. As a recall also, because I'm already old in the industry, I remember in 1999, the industry was doing the transition between heavy fuel to natural gas. And by that time, reduction on CO2 was 50%. So now we want to reduce 70%, right? With electrical furnaces and with hydrogen or biomethane, etc. So the industry is heavily engaged in doing the transition and is even doing their own investments in solar panels, wind installations, and other partnerships with energy suppliers in order to make sure that the transitions will be done as soon as possible. The possible, unfortunately, doesn't depend on the industry because we need renewable energy. So as soon as we have it, we can use it. And that's the claim I can do today. We will be 100% renewable energy as soon as the energy is available in all the countries where the industry operates. So as a first, yes, we are super committed in doing this energy transition. Will be possible to do, for sure, maybe earlier than later than we thought. We see already the amount of investments that are starting. Some of them were in the paper for a long time, so this energy crisis in Europe helped a bit to, you know, to push the execution of the investment. So I think now will come. And so this is on energy. On recycling, so glass is maybe the best material to recycle because it's the only one that you can recycle infinitive times without losing any original property. So I agree with Maria, we should be labeling 100% recyclable, but against plastics, we are really 100% recyclable. So there is no losses when we recycle our material. And the industry is, of course, since ever, first of all, because of economic reasons, because the recycled glass was less expensive than the original raw materials, which is now is not really the case. Then because of energy consumption, you can reduce energy using recycled materials. And then because of CO2 and waste generation. So everything you can recycle, you recycle. So there is a lot of regulation coming in. We even like to say that we welcome regulation because our material is perfect material to recycle. But of course, this requires also some partnerships, not only with customers, but particularly with authorities and with municipalities, which is something that the Close the Glass Loop initiative is trying to do for a while, right? Trying to converge the interests of all the players on the recycling supply chain in order to increase the collection of glass. On the other side, also, the industry always serve the returnable packaging. So returnable is, again, the glass is maybe the preferred material to reuse, because again, you can clean it easily. So it's the perfect material, you can cap it. And of course, the industry is trying to serve this market as soon as our customers require that. We see a lot of big brands raising and building initiatives on replacing some even plastics by reuse glass. That again, we welcome that, and we are more than prepared to serve those needs of our customers. And to finalize, as Maria was saying, the lightweight is a easy. Our technicians will not say that it is easy, but it's easy in the sense that if you reduce weight, you reduce waste, you reduce CO2 emissions, you reduce energy consumption. So there is a lot of things that you can do just lightweighting the package. So the industry is doing a lot of things. Some of initiatives are European initiatives, some are worldwide initiatives, and some are local as these recycling initiatives, because you need really to take it locally in order to be effective in the implementation.
Thanks a lot, Sandra. So Maria, you saw Sandra was going through in 1 minute on all the engagement, the commitment, the strategic approach of the industry. And I can really say that this is all fact-based. It's all based on strong and real commitments from the industry. And I can just invite you to go deeper and deeper and look for more information about that. But as a journalist, Maria, you have a fundamental role in bringing this kind of information to consumers. And we also see that today there's a lot of information, marketing buzz, that it's not always really fact-based and making a reference to acknowledge the sources somewhere. So considering increased greenwashing concerns, considering also the incoming legislation about responsible production, regulating communication in marketing products, so your role of journalist is also changing in a way. So there is information on one side and then promotion, advertising in another side. How are you somewhere adapting yourself to this change of context wherein we are living?
So the role of journalists is, of course, to contrast information, offer different perspectives, and check facts. However, there is also a fundamental relationship between the source of information and, in this case, the brands. It's a relation of trust. As journalists, we rely on companies and to provide an accurate information. And sometimes it's hard to verify this information. So I think it's important for the brands to have journalists in their press offices so they know what journalists need and in time that they need it. So I think it's a relation of trust. And when you cross the line and you lie to a journalist, your risk it's a lot. You are losing that relationship. So I think that brands have to have good practices and put honesty above anything else. So when the journalists receive the information, the first thing we have to do is to contrast. For example, if in any report there's a commentary of something about the industry, journalists have to call the industry and contrast the information. So I think it's a relation of trust between journalists and brands. About the legislation, you asked me, there's a research done by the European Commission that shows that consumers are confronted with unfair commercial practices, which actively prevent them from making sustainability choices, early obsolescence of goods, misleading environmental claims, for example, greenwashing, and non-transparent labels or sustainability informations are some of the criticisms about the good practices. So I hope that upcoming legislation for packaging will make that's an extra lawyer protection. Greenwashing is not a good practice for this, so I hope that the legislation takes about care of it. And about advertising and journalism, I have to be. We have to separate in two ways. Journalism has nothing to do with advertising, with make information, and advertising it's another kind of practice. So media are making it increasingly easy for consumers to recognize whether an article is paid or not paid. So I think we have to be clear for our readers in this case. Nowadays, we've been seeing many catastrophe articles about climate change, for example, but we are moving in another way of journalism that it's more positive, much more constructive. So we are witnessing a change in many articles. So public is not so exhausted because it would be generating eco-anxiety. So journalists now are writing stories in a more positive way about environmental projects and initiatives. So focusing on bottom-up actions also. I think it's very important that we have visibility and promoted these local initiatives and movements so we can serve an inspiration for another sectors and company to do the same things.
Many thanks, many thanks. It's very interesting, this new approach, this positive storytelling, which is somewhere contrasting with the kind of superficial advertising. It's more engaging probably with consumers, and also because the profile of consumers is changing. It's no longer a consumer looking at one layer information. They are looking for more details, and are also ready to give up and refuse a product or a brand if they are not convinced. So Sandra, back to you as a member of the container glass industry, and somewhere answering to what Maria was saying, how do you see our role as an industry, our ethical role in providing accurate information on what we are doing, in promoting recycling, educating the brands and the final consumer, for example, on recycling? How do you put it in action as BA Glass, but also as an industry?
Before going to that, Mike, I have to admit one thing before, is that the industry failed in communicate actively the benefits of glass. So looking back, when I compare the amount of communication that the industry did in the last years compared with other materials, I have to admit that somehow we fail. And we fail based on a positive thing, because we know that the consumers like glass, they perceive glass as environmental friendly, and they perceive as a premium product, the one that is filled in glass. So we assume that we didn't have to communicate so much as other materials like the plastics, the multi-layers, etc. But it's wrong, because we should have communicated much more, and now we lack communication. So as a material, it's our duty, our responsibility to help to educating the consumer and informing more the benefits of our material. And we should not be shy on that, because again, when we look to other materials that even greenwashing, because some of the advertisements are not totally true, doesn't mean that it's not true, but are not totally true. And glass should be really leveraging on the positives of the material. And so one of the things is that we need to do it more, with being more actively communicating and more intense in our communication, even clarifying what other materials are communicating. This green claim directive that will be now translated in a regulation, I think is super welcome by the industry, because will help to distinguish what is greenwash from what is truly communication. Just as a note, I don't know if you had the opportunity to see today on Financial Times, one of the headlines was a fine imposed to oil producers, so Repsol and others, because of their greenwashing. Not because it was not true what they were communicating, but because it was too exaggerated and they could be confusing their consumers. It's the first time I see something like that, okay? And against the big brands. So I think we are entering the right path, which is clarifying what is really true and making sure that we inform well our consumers, and then they can do informed choice. Another thing that is our responsibility is to educating, particularly the youngest, right? And the industry, I think is doing for a long time, going to the schools and engage their employees with some local schools in order to teach the youngest. And now with the social media, is much easier to do that kind of things. Apart from recycling, which is very traditional on this industry to educate consumers on recycling, there is another thing that this industry also needs to do, is to educate on health. There is huge consequences on this increase of recycling of plastics, which is a very complex material to recycle, and the multi-layers much more. And consumers have to be informed about which can be the consequences on their health. So the industry needs to open here also a window that is not planet protection, but is human beings protection. And we also have a role on that, on preserving the health of our citizens. So there is plenty of room for the industry to educate and to inform and make sure that the consumers will do at least informed choice when they go to the supermarket and they choose their products. And of course, reducing on our own, it's to reduce the use of resources, being resources, raw materials, energy, etc. Water, even, we never talk about water, but water is the big problem of this planet. And the industry is doing a fantastic track record on the sense of reduce the water that is consumed, that the majority of our water is reused in our own process. So there is a big duty for this industry and big responsibility to make sure that we inform well our consumers. Yes.
Thanks, Sandra. All extremely interesting, and yeah, we need to be more proud and more proactive in communicating
Yes.
about what we are doing. This is quite clear.
Not to be shy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think this is a very important message. So looking at, we can't do it on our own. You were saying before for energy, but also on this one, looking at how to inform consumers. And can the glass industry influence other industries, sectors to become more sustainable, also players of the value chain? Do you have any tips or suggestions that you want to give to brands? Yeah.
Well, I will not suggest nothing really spectacular, but first of all, I would like to say to the big brands, so to our customers, that they have a huge responsibility on contributing for this better future. I'm sorry, not because we don't have it, of course we have it, but they are the ones that can really influence the consumers and the citizens because they are very close to them. So what I have to tell them is that we are here to partner with you, but you have a huge role in order to drive this change of behaviors that some of them are already driving, and we see the impact of that. Let's look to the non-alcohol beer, right? That was something that when appeared, everybody said, well, we'll fail, and has been a success. So are the big brands are the ones that drive behaviors. So make sure that you rely on scientists to do it. Okay, it's very important that we increase our scientific knowledge, because we have that responsibility. We are the ones that are providing the products. We are the ones that are informing the consumers, and more them than us, because again, they are close to the consumers. So be sure that you are informing well and you are giving them the best options. And also increase the collaboration, the real collaboration. I have to say one thing: everything that is not done is because it requires collaboration, because everything that we can and our customers can do alone, the majority of the things are done, right? Because we can do by our own, we don't need others to do it, it's done. So what needs to be done, what needs to be disrupted, requires a very intensive collaboration. And that is the difficult part of the disruptions, when you need to collaborate and you don't know exactly how to do it. There is not a kind of modus operandi standard that we can follow. No, we need to invent the kind of partnerships that we can build, but needs to be done, because if we don't do it, those challenges will not be accomplished. And of course, consider the other side, the other parts of sustainability. Is not only about the planet and the environmental protection, is much more about human being protection, and we need to be careful, really careful, about the amount of things that we consume that can contaminate our body. And we should be concerned not only about us, but about the next generations, because those are the ones that will suffer. Maybe the ones that are here today will not suffer, but the ones that are coming are suffer. So look to the other side of the sustainability, that is not only the planet, the environmental, is the human beings that, by the way, are part of this panel. So I'll say that will be my biggest recommendation for all.
Thanks a lot, Sandra. I think the message has been delivered. We somewhere we feel a little bit alone in communicating about glass, while there are a lot of opportunities in communicating about the assets of glass, to add value to the product and add value to what we communicate to consumers. So the invitation is really to brands to work with us and to study with us what can be done, and to media to contrast, as you were saying, Maria, to check what we are doing and to support or to challenge us in a way. So just to close with Maria, exactly on that, what would be your advice to the companies that need to adapt to this changing context today?
I think that communication is only effective if it's honest and verifiable. And media's role is to tell authentic stories that focus on people in the companies, and breakthrough innovations around environmental protection and sustainability. And as Sandra says, in scientific issues also. So you have a lot to communicate in this material. The focus, I think, it should be on reporting on projects and sustainable practices of companies that can also be verified. So consumers are willing to trust them as well. Maybe it's a good idea to have alliances with NGOs and institutions and scientific institutions, just to put glass in the agenda, in the communicating agenda. And the most important advice is to avoid all kinds of information that can be seen as greenwashing. So this is the only way that allows us to build a relationship of trust between brands and consumers, and between the media and the readers.
Thanks a lot. So I see time is running. I think from the audience, there is one question which is quite technical. I don't know, Sandra, if you want to take it. There is a question about in order to increase mixed cullet in the production process of glass, is there a chance to decrease the pure flint requirement for brands, and so to not to be so demanding on this color. Do you have any sites on that, or yeah, what's your point there?
Well, there are brands that are already doing that. So there are brands that bet on not having that extra flint or flint, pure flint, in order to be able, for the producer, the glass producer, to be able to incorporate less flint glass. So that, and you can see different things. You can see a more greenish flint or a more gray flint or yellow. Depends. Okay, of course that could help a lot. Another thing that we are starting to see some brands doing is to go from the flint to another type of color, being the amber or the green, which normally represents a big disruption in their brands, because the color also is part of their brand. But there are brands already doing that, at least for specific subsegments of their products. So there are many things we can do. And of course, the brands can also work with us on that. So we can even provide solutions in order to make sure that the recycled content can be increased. That I think everyone is looking for that, including the glass producers. Yes, that's possible.
Yes, thanks. And just borrowing another quote from Luke's Pack event last year, saying green is the new black. In a way, it's it's kind of new premium. There is a change of mentality there. So it's time to wrap up, and I would like just to take some key points of what I heard from you. Not exhaustive at all, but just what I learned is that consumers are increasingly activists. They are informed and they want to know more about the products they buy and the brands that produce this product, and their choice is no longer based on quality and price. It's also based on sustainability, and sustainability is not just environment. It's also more than that, as Sandra was explaining. Media have a fundamental role in delivering authentic and fact-checked information, so to consumers, no matter if it is a paid article, if it is a promotion or earned media. So media trust the market players, consumers trust the media, and the consequence can be that the consumers can just reject a product, let's say. Sustainability, what Sandra was saying, is no longer just a rule to comply or just a burden. It's actually an opportunity. It makes business sense for the whole value chain. It's integrating component of all business model, the circular business model today. But there is need for collaboration. It's a systemic adaptation. It's all need to work together and be aligned along common sustainability goals. And just to close on our industry is just continuing to adapt, as Sandra was saying. It's not starting today. We have been always adapting, and we are addressing now the sustainability challenges that are high on the agenda to continue to produce the packaging material of the future, because glass has been there for 5,000 years, and we trust it to be there for other 5,000 years. So, but collaboration is key and needed. On this, I think there is another question. Very, very quickly, because I don't want to be impolite. There is another question. You want to put it online? So again, to Sandra, do you see how do you see the future of glass packaging in a high circular economy? The competition for plastic and aluminium, and also in the light of the new eco design and EPR legislation. So linked to what we are saying. So how do you see the future of glass?
I see it brilliant. I used to say that glass only have two problems. One is CO2 that will be solved as soon as we switch for renewable source of energy. And the second one is that breaks, but even that improved a lot and will continue to improve. So glass will have a relevant and a main role in this circularity. and has much more advantage than other materials. By the way, I have to tell that the consumers recognize that, because it's not for luck that the big brands, they launch their products normally in glass, so they don't launch it in PET or cans. Now more cans than it used to be, but well, they launch in glass, and they launch it because consumers like it. It's the only reason, not because they like glass or they prefer glass against other materials. It's because the consumer perceive it as a good material, and a premium material. So glass will have, I think, a more important role than today in the future of the packaging.
So as you can see, we can stay for hours with Sandra and Maria, and but unfortunately we have to close. Before closing, I would just remind also that on the 29th of June there is the annual Closed Glass Loop event, the first event on live of this important platform, a multi-stakeholder platform to achieve the 90% collection target together in Europe. Together is the key word. We will also organize new live Q&As, and we in the pipeline we have one exactly on the impact of the packaging and packaging waste regulation on the market. So this is something we will organize probably after summer. So I ask our audience just to join virtually me in thanking Sandra and Maria for their precious contribution to this debate. I hope it was very interesting for you. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you all.
And the report, this interview will be available, of course, broadcasted on our Glass Hallmark LinkedIn channel, and we will make sure that all other questions will be answered, if any. So again, thanks a lot, and goodbye to the next episode of the live Q&As soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye all. Thank you very much.